Welcome to episode 15 of the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
And today is April 17th, 2013, and we will be talking about Evil Dead. That is, Evil Dead, not The Evil Dead, which I'm sure will come up in...
Undoubtedly, yes.
Alright, so synopsis there.
So if you're new to Evil Dead or The Evil Dead, it's about 5 friends that head to a remote cabin. Original idea, where the discovery of a book of the dead leads them to unwittingly summon up demons living in the nearby woods. The evil presence possesses them until only one is left to fight for survival. Thank you, spoilers.
Yes, basically, don't go on IMDb ever again, apparently, if you haven't seen the film.
And another big spoiler here, it won't be the survivor you think.
No.
But
yes.
I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. But,
yeah. Although most people will probably have seen the film if they're listening to this, I think. Alright, well, basic nitty-gritty here. The director is, and I'm going to mess up the first name, Fede, F-E-D-E. So however you would want to say that.
Fede, I don't know.
Alvarez, apparently hand-picked by Sam Raimi to do this film. Budget of $17 million. Which is not that bad, and they did everything with practical effect. I think they just sort of touched up with CG. They didn't do much else.
How much has it made so far?
So far, $53,119,021.
That's why these movies get made.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been out for how long now?
Yeah, what, 2 weeks or
something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And it probably made its money back opening weekend, I'm sure. I'm sure it made 17 or 20 million.
I think it was about 23, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And I'm going to have to defer to you for the cast list there.
All right, so we have Jane Levy as Mia, Shiloh Fernandez as David, the two leads.
Yeah, who is you? I was going to
just say Ash.
Yes.
As Ash, but we'll call him Ash.
Yeah. And, we'll call him something else.
Jessica Lucas as Olivia.
Right.
Lou Taylor Pucci as Eric, and Elizabeth Blackmore as Natalie, Ash's girlfriend.
Yes, the girlfriend.
Yes.
Now, I will say this off the top. Did you feel at all, you probably didn't, and I'm just thinking about this weirdly, that they actually wanted Elijah Wood as David, and they couldn't find Elijah Wood because he was surely way above the play...
Oh, they couldn't find him.
They couldn't find him at all.
He was still in the
he lost somewhere. I don't know.
Just because he's played Frodo doesn't mean he's only 3 foot tall.
No. He's off hiking, I'm sure.
No, or talking to a dog, or I don't know what he's doing. Is that show still on?
Okay. It did seem to be like they went for, let's find someone that looks like Elijah Wood to play David. Especially at the beginning.
It's like, let's find a bunch of CK models or guest models.
Yeah.
But it was a very much guess ad, but
I had to say, any film now that 4 or 5 people in a cabin or anything like that, I want the people from Cabin in the Woods to be those characters, no matter what happens to them.
Fair enough. And well, just point this out. I swear to you that I just discovered this right before starting the podcast. I did not do any research, but
I can play you the audio if you really need.
Yeah. And you will attest to it. I'm not that good of an actor. I would tell Paul if I researched this. But if you look at the first letter of each of the characters' names, it is an anagram for demon, which I feel awfully proud of discovering that. So I'm sure other people have noticed it, but I feel very special noticing it. So well done, writers. Well done, Philippe or Fede or whatever your name is, Fadouche.
Maybe even Sam Raimi or Bruce Campbell, because they were producers and everything. I'm sure they had a hand.
Yes, so I'm sure that was their, they had to do something because... I don't know. I'm sure they didn't want to name the characters again, which I said up to you earlier before we saw the film that you just can't do it justice, I guess, if you would...
Yeah, you can't have a new Ash.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell was iconic as Ash, and so I understand. I'm assuming that's why they changed the names
I can give you another reason as well. I haven't told you this yet. Sam Raimi and his brother are writing Evil Dead 4, which is a sequel to Army of Darkness.
So you don't want to mess with the canon
No,
of
especially since, apparently, there is already a sequel in the works for this film. And a 7th film, which is going to merge the two characters together to bring Ash and apparently Mia together into the same film.
Oh, goody, I can't wait.
I know. The only way that it can work, because I know there's been a big thing of some people say it was probably going to be a remake entirely or a reboot or something, and it's not that. The director himself has said that he sees it as taking place 30 years later than the original, and they've come to this cabin which has clearly been bought by the family 20 years ago, and the Book of the Dead, the Necronomicon, which is not called the Necronomicon in this, I think, but whatever, has made its way back to the cabin, and it's just the whole thing has started all over again. Although I will say, do you remember at all in the original film that the demon needed to devour 5 souls to come and destroy the world? Is that in the original?
I do not recall that a little bit, yeah.
I don't recall that in any of them. I just recall it that it's just an evil Book of the Dead. Yeah. That the dead will rise type thing, or demons will come and possess you. And that's pretty much the extent of it. I guess it would be seen as just a gateway into the human world, rather than follow these steps to stop this one demon from coming to Earth. Which, possible spoiler, I suppose. I mean, they say it in the film when the guy's reading the book, oh, this is going to happen. Yeah. And then at the end of the film, guess what? It happens.
See, I find it hard to believe he had never watched a horror movie where you're not supposed to read the evil book.
I know.
Nothing can come of this. I'm just going to say this prayer.
You flick through the first 3 pages, on which say, leave this book alone.
Well, first of all, it's covered in barbed wire and then in a garbage bag or wrapped in black plastic.
It has a skin of skin.
Yes.
And blood-torn pages and writing.
Cut yourself on the book immediately.
Yeah, and on the page that it tells you not to read the verse, he scribbles out and then reads.
Yes, the hubris of the man is just incredible. Okay.
It's almost, at this point, it's really difficult to suspend your disbelief that this guy is this stupid.
Yeah, I know that's what you have to do to get into the story, but you gotta sell it some better way than that. Like Cabin of the Woods sold it really well. But they're just playing with stuff in the cellar.
They've all found. They don't
realize what they've unleashed.
Well, especially since in Cabin in the Woods, it is just a diary, which it's not a book on which stand. This is how you release a demon. Please read this passage.
Stop what you're doing. Oh. And then I love that there's multiple choice on how to kill the demon.
Yeah, there's 3 ways to kill the demon. Well,
you can do this, but if you're a little squeamish about sawing people's arms off, you can do this. Yeah. Or you can also do this.
And it's, of course, the only question then becomes, well, is this how some of these people are going to die? And no. Is the answer. There's only one actual proper disposal by one of the methods, if you don't count the very beginning, which isn't that group of people. Yeah. Because obviously that is by fire, and then in this film...
Well, David dies by fire. With Eric, or whatever.
I have to bring this up then. Okay, so, in the book, it says that the demon has to come up and devour, or consume, whatever, 5 souls, so that the abomination, or the whatever they call it, can come to Earth, blood rain, destroy the world, that sort of thing. Let's count the number of people that are possessed by this demon. You have the sister, Mia, you have the girlfriend, you have the doctor, nurse person who is the friend of the sister, and then the nerdy guy that reads the book. 4.
Wait. You're not counting David?
He doesn't get possessed.
Well, he gets killed, though.
He is killed. But
it's only until he... Is it... I don't think they have to be possessed. Don't they just have to require 5 souls? He said
it has to be consumed or devoured. Okay. And
Well, you don't know what happened in the last moments in that cabin,
unless the demon is super fucking fast. Yeah. That was the thing. Jamie, my wife, said at one point, because I brought this up to her, saying, oh, actually... You never see David getting the demon possession at any point. I mean, you see his old friend standing right there, and you see him shoot the thing, which causes instant explosion, and then it turns out blood rain, the abomination coming onto Earth. And so I said to her, well, David wasn't obviously possessed, And she then said, well, what if it's just that the demon had to be there when he died?
See, I just understood it as that 5 people had to die.
Right, yeah, because that was the thing.
Through acts of the possession.
Yeah.
Because he was an indirect death of the possession.
Yeah,
so.
Because I was saying, I mean, obviously, the way they were going, it did kind of have to end at the demon kind. And you hear the guy... My problem is that with it, obviously, you then say, okay, maybe death will lead to it. But before he shoots the bucket to explode the cabin, the possessed other guy says he is coming, which leads you to think that it's already in place that the guy is coming. To me, anyway. I mean, I take things too much.
I'm not going to think too hard on it. That movie does not warrant me thinking too hard on it. But
the only other thing that I could think of which might possibly explain it is it doesn't state that it has to be 5 souls at the same time, and that the girl at the very beginning still counts. The one that's from, 10 years
don't
ago.
care.
I
so don't care.
I am leading too much into this argument.
Yes, you are. You care
film.
way too much about... Yeah.
Now, come on. If this is the one thing that I can get up about this film...
I don't know. Well, yeah, then, you got the girl from The Ring crawling out of the ground. And
Yeah.
Did you not think of that immediately once you crawled out of the ground? It's all spidery movement and
Yeah. Well, you could also say The Exorcist as well.
Well, yeah, I guess. If we're going that far, but... Yeah.
If we're going to bring in, better films.
But yeah, for me, Cabin in the Woods put a capper on the whole genre of the Cabin in the Woods movies.
Yeah.
Because once you tip your hat to that in that way, it seems kind of ballsy or kind of stupid to go make a traditional Cabin in the Woods movie.
Yeah, even if it's
without the twist.
Even if it's attempt at rethinking an old favorite with the blessing.
That's me. Yeah, you've elevated it. With Cabin in the Woods to that twist and to that absurdity and ridiculousness that played well for me. Didn't play well for everyone.
Well, it's also that film is pointing out all of the stereotypes. Yeah. So now going into other films, you see those exact stereotypes.
Yeah, you have much more educated viewers that maybe weren't familiar but saw that and they're like, okay, this is just so stereotypical, so cliched.
Yeah.
But even without, if Cabin in the Woods had not existed, I still don't think I would have been a huge fan of this. Just I don't think it was well done. But surprise, I know you couldn't tell by my tone. But yeah.
Well,
I don't have much to say on it.
Well, on that case, I will bring up the thing that you had a word with me about after we saw it, which is the whole idea that this film is very much sort of going for the gore.
The gross out, the shock.
And then I added the jump scare.
If you elicit a natural reflex in my body, that does not mean I'm scared. Yeah. That means I'm alive.
I've reached a point where I know how to stop a jump scare, which is if you actually take a slight breath in and hold it for a second. At that done, you don't get your natural at it. But I've reached the point now of being a film student that I can predict about 80% of the time exactly when it's going to happen. So I just sort of dun. Oh, okay.
But that is not. I love how people say, "Oh, that's scared," or "You are scared, you jumped." No, that is not frightening, or that is not scary.
That is
my
noise.
Body reflecting, or a reflex to a stimulus. Nothing scary there. You know? A balloon popping would have been more frightening. Would have given me a tiny fright.
Just a little fright. I'm not going to say what that is.
Well,
if you know, then
good for you. Yeah.
Well, I know that you tend not to like gore. Period. I mean, it depends on.
It's I'm a huge Tarantino fan. And his films are ultra violent, but those. Serve a purpose for me. The violence always has a reason.
There is
whether it's exploitation or whether it's supposed to be over the top, like Django, just to show the atrocities.
Well, I would say with most Tarantino films, it's not necessarily gore. It's more just amount of blood. You don't always see a lot.
It's not. You're not seeing someone saw through someone's arm and all the viscera and the ligaments being cut away, and even the bone shattering, and
even with Pulp Fiction, say with Marvin's head being blown off. You don't see the body at all after that.
Yeah.
And you see little pieces of stuff that they're picking up.
Yeah.
But you don't see the gross out dead body. You just see like red everywhere. They've got to clean the car now.
Yeah.
And so it's not the gore in as much as the sawing off of an arm.
Yeah, well, Kill Bill was definitely the gory. I think a little more with Lucy Liu's head sliding off, things like that. But
you can play that up for comedy.
That's the revenge. That's the revenge story there. But
yeah,
it's just gore or shock for shock's sake. Like, seriously, did we need the Olivia character urinating on herself? Like,
probably not. No.
Yeah, like really, like what is okay? It's just shock and it was stupid. And and then the girlfriend cutting her arm off, and we're not gonna cut away. We're not. Oh, you want us to cut away, but we're not gonna cut away. With the electric knife, and I'm sorry, electric knife is not gonna go through bone, but not like it's butter. Foreshadowing.
And I would also say that point where she has been bit on the hand, and then you see like the progression, which is why she cuts her arm off. The progression at the arm. I was sitting there, seeing her cut her arm off, and thinking, does no one else remember the other thing that happened, which is she was kissed by the demonically possessed person.
Oh yeah,
with injecting the blood from the slit tongue into her. So she's possessed anyway. Why is she even bothering cutting the arm off?
She was a dumb blonde. She didn't remember. I don't know. Yeah I have no idea.
Especially maybe if they'd have done her doing that before you see that Olivia was possessed, then there would have been more of a is she safe now?
Yeah.
But you just watched Olivia be possessed, and then you see this happen. It's like, I know you're cutting your arm off so that you can be safe and everything, but it doesn't matter. We've seen that it doesn't matter. So this whole 5-minute scene is now pointless.
Much like the entire movie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For setting me up. All right.
I will say that I did like a couple of the characters in the film. I didn't necessarily like what they were trying to do with that lore and everything, and you've heard a couple of my criticisms of the film, but I did like the mere character, the whole reason for them being at the cabin.
That was an interesting take, the detox thing.
Yeah, more along the lines of something you would see now. Friends trying to get
plausible reason, because why else would young people want to not be without their iPhones, other than to detox a druggie?
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got the cabin in the woods, and any other film would have been, there's no reception. This one is very specifically, no, we're cutting ourselves off.
Yeah,
so fair enough.
Yeah. Good try, but not good enough. But
close. But
I did want to bring up. I know this is a film podcast, but since it is related to the Evil Dead, I did get a chance to see with a friend of mine a couple years ago, Evil Dead the musical.
Yeah, you lucky bastard.
Which I know you're not a musical fan, but you would have loved this. The songs were perfect. It was a great, funny homage to the Bruce Campbell Ash and Shelley and all those, and there was blood splattering, just this red dyed chocolate sauce kind of flying all over the place. They handed you ponchos out, because we were sitting in the first row, and our shirts did get covered. And it was fun. I mean, it was hilarious. The songs were hilarious. I mean, one of the songs was, "What the fuck was that?" And that was the chorus. "What the fuck was that?" Just looking at a noise or looking towards a noise, and look who's evil now. That was not one of my favorite songs, but it was really enjoyable. Just gory. Just to see the theater tricks of the the blood flying, and it was definitely well done and well worth it. And I would go see that 100 times over before going to see Evil Dead again.
I would go and see it the once. I want to see
the
damn thing.
Yeah. But very well done. So I did want to bring that up. Yeah. So you can use this material for good.
Yes, you can pay homage to it in a way that is actually just taking it adapting it slightly and then going with it. It's not a rethinking of, well, what would happen next?
Yeah, it was closer to Monty Python's Evil Dead.
Yeah.
You know, like, which is, I think, what you have to do, kind of.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why does it need to be remade if you're just going to do the same thing?
Yeah.
So you need to bring something new, whether that's humor or whether, or a different spin on it.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. It was supposed to be a reimagining, not a remaking, but with the exception of the very end, there's no real difference, really.
I mean,
it's
the
updated effects.
The heroine lives instead of the hero.
Yeah.
And
updated effects and gore value, just I guess to make sure that the audience is still shocked, given what's out now.
And then the bit of foreshadowing with she died from the overdose before.
Yeah.
And had to be shocked back into life. Yeah.
I did like in the in the film where he's putting all that stuff together, and then it's gone because he's gone somewhere else, and then it's almost like he was going to do one thing, he then changed his mind and then went back to try and do another thing, and then something happened, and then he goes back to plan B.
I don't know, bit indecisive, but. Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I was going to give this film a -4 just because basing it on production-wise, I can't see anything wrong with it. I love the fact that they did do all of their own effects. Everything in camera, with the exception, I'm guessing, maybe taking out of the edge of a prosthetic you might have seen or something like that.
The rape tree, I'm sure that was little effects there, which,
Well, I remember when I was watching that scene, in my head I was thinking, right, okay, they said there's no CG, so I'm looking for it. And if you actually watch it...
seemed like there was some when it was wrapping around.
Well, the thing that you see when it's going along, I was looking right at the edge of frame, and you never see the end, the front end of it. You just see... like, it's just gone, and then everything's going. So it's very plausible that what probably happened is there's someone with a length of wire just pulling very quickly on it and filming a response. I'm sure maybe they added some slime to it or something. They just treated it up a little bit, but and I think I'll knock it down to maybe a -6, just because, and I'm sure we're about to go into it, of how much I like the original Evil Deads and how much this doesn't quite... it's not even a retelling. It just doesn't measure up to the original lore. There wasn't really a reason for this. Obviously, if this film exists only so they can kickstart Sam Raimi Evil Dead again, and they are able to stay true to that, then okay, that's fine. I'm okay with this film being here. But if it just gets to the point where I know there's going to be a lot of hype, and the new Sam Raimi Evil Dead, if that falls flat, then it's going to be like, okay, this just kind of kick-started all this, and we didn't need it. We were fine with the original 3.
Yeah, which, I want to get into that a little later with other films. But, I'm not even going to, give it a rating. It would probably be somewhere along you, but in honor of Mr. Ebert, I'm just giving it a thumbs down.
All right.
2 thumbs down if I'm allowed to give, but, Yeah. All digits down. But completely unnecessary to remake. I'm not saying the Bruce Campbell version is immaculate.
No.
But it's one of those that stands the test of time, or it's definitely has that kitschy appeal, or
it's got the nostalgia at least.
It's definitely sentimental value for me and nostalgia, and I can maybe understand if like new fans go and watch that '83 version. Yeah, what's the big deal? Because you've been desensitized to so much. Yeah. Or from many other movies.
You'd like to think with the comedy in it, that's what this film was missing. There was no real comedy in it.
No.
I think at the beginning they were trying to do a couple of lines that were almost macabre, as it were.
Yeah.
But, there was none of the slightly camp comedy that defined the original film. Yeah. So... granted, you might want to make it an all-horror film, but I defy you to find one single horror film out there that doesn't have the smallest amount of comedy in it. Maybe in a situation.
You need the comedy to kind of blindside you to the horror aspect. You need to get the audience's guard down.
Yeah.
By laughing, and then
And there was
something horrible happens.
It was depressing, the beginning of the film, because you've got the brother that was never there when the mother was dying. You've got the sister who's addicted to the stuff and is trying to get off it. You then have her being raped and no one believing it.
Yeah.
You then have the demonic possession and everyone trying to deal with that. And then you have everyone dying left and right. And there's no comedy. There's not even a line in there.
It's a lot to wade through, yeah.
And I understand that maybe they were just trying to go full out.
Like Eric, the guy that started everything, the reading the book, Eric or where, who cares what his name was, said, it's like, have you noticed things just keep getting worse? And that's how I felt about the film. Things just keep getting worse.
That was probably the funniest line in the film. It's like, no,
we're not fine.
We're not fine. Things are getting worse, and
every second.
Given how we just said that, you think, oh, that could be a funny line. Not the way he gave it.
No,
it's like, no, things are getting worse. They keep getting worse every time we do something.
And have you noticed the president has been shot?
Not the president.
See, they keep getting worse.
I love that we have a running joke now.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think this movie deserves any more discussion.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm sure everyone else is good.
Alright, well, I guess we should talk a little bit about the original Evil Dead then. We can't go too far into it because that's a podcast in and of itself, I'm sure, if we were going to do that.
Yeah, because maybe some classic horror film podcast or something.
But, so you've got the original Evil Dead, which the premise, with the exception of the getting over the drug addiction, is the same as the other film. It's some kids
and to be pointed out, it wasn't entirely a cliche at the time.
No,
for the Cabin in the Woods.
At the time, it was just, these people are on their break. That was the cliche.
Young kids
they were on holiday, not the fact that they were in a cabin in the woods. And then one of them, and they didn't even read the book. They find a tape of
the recording,
the guy that did read the book.
And they play him reading,
which I think is a fantastic way to go about it.
Yeah.
Because then if you think about it, that makes it even more tragic, because it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's not like one of them was stupid enough to find a book with the word "don't read this" and read it. It's just, listen to this. And then crazy stuff goes down. And you've got Bruce Campbell, who is Ash, and based on these films, he has a career even now.
Yes.
Doing the circuit of normally cameos and stuff, which gets a lot of people going. He had his own, I don't know how involved he was in it, but there was My Name is Bruce, and the idea was that he played, quote unquote, himself, and people kept coming to him thinking he's Ash and trying to get him to deal with all of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have existed, and he wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for the fact that he was friends, sort of, with Sam Raimi at the time, and he was available for shooting.
Yeah. Cheap.
Yeah. Well, he was apparently just working a part-time job, and he was kind of homeless at the time, but he had the option of just going home. Like, his family said they would support him until he found a job, but he just said, no, I'm willing to do this. So, someone like that became the Ash that we know and love now through the 3 films, and hopefully the Ash we will know and love in the next film when they make that one. And a lot of the fun from the films actually came from as I said, the camp comedy in it, and also the fact that they're just willing to do pretty much anything with it. And because it was Sam Raimi writing and Bruce Campbell doing Ash, it was fine. I mean, the beginning of Evil Dead 2 is a retelling of the entirety of Evil Dead 1, and it just cuts down to just him and his girlfriend.
I need to go back and see that. Yeah, it's been years and years and years since I've seen 2.
And I will say, I heard that this Evil Dead, like the remake, whatever, of Evil Dead, had a very good sense of where it came from, paid homage to the original films, and I think there was one thing it had in common, which is the cutting off of a limb/hand.
Yeah.
And of course the book.
The book, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it.
You pointed out to me the homage of her sitting on Ash's car.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
See, the very beginning, it is
whatever.
Ash's car, which, as I then said, they're looking to make a film combining them. The fact that this is supposed to be later. And then I was talking to my wife again. We were so waiting, and there were two perfect moments for it. For the word boomstick to be uttered. Nothing.
Yeah.
When they were cutting off the arm, when they were in the shed, even if they were in the shed, nowhere near where they were cutting off the hand. If that book, A Farewell to Arms, battered and just on top of a bucket, nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just, the only real homage, I guess, is the fact that she ends up shoving the chainsaw onto her stump at one point because it's just not going. It wasn't I'm going to stick this on here and use it. It's it's not going. Yeah, so a lot of the iconic things that we were thinking, they might pay homage to it, no.
Yeah, big waste.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before as well, just we can't think of a single remake / reimagining, reboot of a classic horror film series that has gone anywhere or done well.
For someone, I think I've had this discussion with you before, I'm not a huge horror genre fan.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just because when it's a great movie, I don't care what the genre is, it's a great movie. And for me, that seems to be a little more infrequent in the horror genre, for me. That a movie is great. And now different people define that different ways. Did you laugh a lot, or was it silly? But for me, a horror film, I want it to be emotional. I want it to be frightening, and something like The Sixth Sense I thought was a great horror film. And for me, it just had a beautiful story to it, and there were moments that legitimately made my skin crawl in that. Yeah,
which is a thing. You don't necessarily think of The Sixth Sense as being a horror film, but if you do think about it, there are some genuine horrific parts to it, which is a good way of going about it, making it more of a psychological horror thing, which I'm always a fan of the more intellectual horror stuff.
Exactly. So, and then on the other side is like kind of what you were talking about, the films of the 70s, the horror films, which I can appreciate those on a different level, is that they're just pure fun. Yeah. They're, okay, I don't care how ridiculous it is. Yeah, you would never survive that explosion or whatever the case may be. You're being stabbed 50 times. Oh, he lived. The killer's still alive or whatever it is. Yeah. But they're just pure fun. And I know why the studios do it. Like you said, this is already made, 50-some million? It's a quick turnaround. They're cheap to make. Yeah. And people are going to go see it because, they've heard of the original or their parents told them about the original. And it's, sure, horror and they're good for dates and all that crap. But, you had, I just wanted to mention some: Halloween, Hills Have Eyes, The Omen, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm a fan of all the originals of those. Yeah. And zero of the remakes.
I can also actually put in there the Friday the 13th as well. They did that with one, and it wasn't terrible, but I'm sure many fans of the original will say it didn't stack up just because of the now cult-like following of that, and you just can't really touch those anymore. Yeah. It is a problem. Everyone's
even going back to The Shining, where they did that Brian Weber TV one. Why? Yeah. You're seriously going to take on The Shining? Here's Johnny. And
there's a reason why whenever all of these comedy shows and stuff do the it's The Shining 2. There's a reason why that's a laugh. It's because no one would be stupid enough to do it, and then people do it.
To remake something that has been done as good as you can do it.
Yeah. I mean, the Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Freddy, is horrific and funny. I mean, the further it goes on, the more it relies on the fact that he finds everything funny in this killing of all these people. And then the reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, of Nightmare on Elm Street, he's just a cold-blooded killer from the grave, and that's not what he was, which means it's a complete reimagining of it, which would get rid of most of your original core audience, even though I'm sure there will be people that say, oh, I like this one because it's better graphics, it's more in the style of what we're used to now.
Yeah.
So they'll have the new audiences, but it'll always have the problem of you just can't measure up to the original. So you'll have less of an audience, I feel, now.
Yeah, me too. And it's, I think the worst of those was Psycho. I so regret. My instincts, I usually listen to them and say, I'm not going to watch this, and I'll watch it.
I saw the remake of Psycho before I saw the original Psycho.
More of a waste of time than Evil Dead.
I will tell you why for that as well. I was at a friend's house, I think I was 12, 13, and we did a double bill because I was staying there till late, and we had a lot of time, so we were in his room, and on the TV we had 2 films that were rented from BlokeBusters Video. So, you know,
that's an old sentence.
What's the John Mulaney? Like, I was on the phone to BlokeBusters Video, and that's an old sentence. And we watched, I think it's just called Dolls or something, which is basically about 3 people, mother, father, and daughter, that stay the night in this old house because their car gets stuck, and it's filled with living ventriloquist dolls that come and try and kill them.
Lots of Chuckies. Okay.
And at the very end, you know, of course, the mother and father, who are technically horrible to the kid, they die and they get fine, blah, blah, blah. And then at the very end, you see, oh, there's another car stuck in the mud outside the house. Yeah. So there's that. And then he had the remake of Psycho. At the time, I didn't know it was a remake. It was just Psycho. Yeah. So we watched that, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, okay. You know, I don't know about it at the time. It's like, not a bad film. I get it. And then I see the original Psycho, and I go, what the fuck were they thinking?
They could have just, I don't know how much, if it would have been cheaper or not, to just put Vince Vaughn's face on Norman, superimpose it on.
Or just redub.
Because
even cheaper, redub it.
If you haven't, do not waste your time. It is a shot-for-shot remake.
With the addition of, I think, a 1 minute 30-second scene. If that. Something stupid.
And by the way, it should be against the law to remake Hitchcock. I think Congress needs to stop messing with the steroids and baseball and all that crap and pass a law. You do not remake Hitchcock. I don't want to see Birds again. I don't want to see North by Northwest remade. You know, any of that. So
it should be you're not allowed to remake anything from either very established directors or very established series of films. You can only take things from it or pay homage to it. That's all you're allowed to do.
Give us something original. God, I know it's easy to make money with sequels and remakes, but God.
I think it was 2 years ago, the top 10 films of the year, there was 1 non-sequel in the entire list. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's easy money.
And then, of course, you've got some films which people say is original, and then you realise, oh, it's actually this story done in a different setting.
Yeah, Avatar, what an original screenplay.
My housemate ribbed me about that one because I really liked Avatar, but I hated Dancing with Wolves. And I fully admit, it's the visual aspect of it. I know it's the same story.
That story's as old as time. The outsider taken in by a culture he doesn't understand. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. I come to love this culture more than my own.
Of course, they are using Dancing with Wolves as the example, specifically because I hated Dancing with Wolves. And they're like,
John Smith and Pocahontas. All the way
same
back.
Story, and I will always say, I don't care. For this film, I don't care. Any other film, yes, but not this one.
I guess what we're saying is educate yourselves. Know what you're know what you're seeing. You're still allowed to enjoy it, but know what you're seeing.
Or even not enjoy it, but because of this, you can discuss it. You can talk about how this might have been a better film or how this shouldn't have been made. Yeah, a lot of fun from cinema comes with discussing it with other people and getting all of the aspects of that out, which is what we're doing here.
Yeah, why do you like the story? What was it? You know, even if it is the same old thing.
And then, of course, there's nothing better than a group of your friends sitting around watching a shit film.
Yeah.
One of my favourite comedians called Brendan Burns, he has a whole bit at the end of one of his acts where he talks about the fact that his favourite shit film of all time is Crocodile Dundee 3. And he said when he and his friends sat down to watch that, they had a competition to think of what could be the most just terrible ending that they could do to this film. And one of his friends came up with, it would involve the two main characters decked out in black face paint, standing in front of the Hollywood sign, just going, "That's Hollywood!" And as he says, guess what? The ending is close. And it's almost one of those things of now, I want newer horror films to either be a new thing where they actually spend some time on it, they've come up with either a good storytelling method or a good villain. Yeah. One of those two normally saves it. Or if it turns into so bad it's good. And a lot of these films, Evil Dead included, just kind of fall in the middle, and then I'm just not satisfied.
Unenthusiastic, and I'm also sick of the found footage, scary movies. Blair Witch was the first and only that needed to be like that, and it has its fans and it doesn't. But
that's another problem. I mean, you've got the found footage, which is Blair Witch Project, and the entire thing about that was the fact that it was early enough that there was less likelihood of you figuring out that it wasn't found footage until you'd been to see it. Yeah. Whereas now they make found footage like Paranormal Activity.
Exactly, and they've made they're going to make 7 more of those. You know it.
And The Fourth Kind, I believe it's called, the alien abduction one, which my brother said that he thinks that it can't be faked because, and this was his logic, you cannot fake police camera footage.
All right. Well,
it wasn't necessarily because he thought aliens existed or not. It was the fact that towards the end of the film there is a shot from the dash cam of a police car, and you can't fake that. You can never fake that.
All right. There you have it, folks.
I'm not going to go any further now.
I don't think you need to. Yeah. But for the horror genre, it's just hard to please. I am hard to please, at least. I'll admit it.
I do enjoy watching horror films. I like seeing gore done well. I like seeing things that can change my perception of it, and I want to see a film that scares me. So far, I haven't had that, but it's because I'm able to figure out, that person's going to probably be behind that door, or something's going to happen. The worst one of which was, of course, I think I mentioned it before on the podcast, the remake of Halloween, where half of the shot of one point was taken up with just the car window.
Oh, yeah.
And so you realise at some point in this conversation they're having, the killer is going to burst through the window. I say you realise this, I was the only one in the theatre that realised this. So there was a massive "ah!" from the theatre, and I did look round, going, no. Surely someone else knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
We should probably get off the horror.
Yes, I think we can,
we can probably class this as the Evil Dead / horror film thing, unless a really good one comes out again.
/ what not to do if you're making a horror film.
This is the Evil Dead / just watch Cabin in the Woods.
Be a good writer or find a good writer is what you need to do to make a horror film.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll move on to our Netflix recommendations, and I will get you to go first.
Alright, I am going to talk about a film that I've seen a while back, but I think it's been a while since we recorded it anyway. But it's, I guess you'd call it indie, even though it has a couple stars in there. It's called Butter. And I'll just read you the IMDb synopsis just because it's easy. In small-town Iowa, an adopted girl discovers her talent for butter carving and finds herself pitted against an ambitious local woman in their town's annual contest. It's got Jennifer Garner in there as the very ambitious, wants her husband to do big things, and very controlling, very demanding, very kind of, I need nice things and you will take care of me and you're going to, kind of thing. And Ty Burrell, who I'm not super familiar with, but is great as her husband.
Right.
Then you have the very young Yari Shahidi. She plays Destiny, the young girl in it. She's absolutely incredible. Right. Her story is amazing, and she's the adopted daughter, and one of her parents is Rob Corddry. who's just absolutely hilarious and sweet and touching in this, and she finds this thing that she's really good at, butter carving, and it's kind of a ridiculous premise, like, oh, butter, because it's the Hicks, and it's, this young black girl is really into butter carving.
Yeah.
And it's just such a well-done movie. You have Olivia Wilde as this stripper who the main guy sleeps with and just leads into all this trouble. You have Hugh Jackman in there as this car salesman. It's just, people are popping up all over the place. And it's just this, you actually build tension for this butter carving contest between this really bitchy Jennifer Garner and this young adopted kid. And it's, just watch it. It's definitely a gem. I don't want to say too much more about it. Just check it out. It's a good time.
Well, my particular pick this week is Killing Bono, which is a film from, I believe it's from the UK, but it's a film about these people from Ireland who grew up in the same town and went to school with and were friends with U2. And the idea is that the two main characters, or people, it's a biopic of sorts, it's one of those dramatizations, but the people that were actually doing it were a part of it. It's based on the book of the people that this film is about. And it's Neil McCormick and Ivan McCormick. And Ivan McCormick is offered the option of being in U2, or I should say his brother is told by the person that will then become Bono that they want Ivan in the band. And of course his brother, who is starting his own band, says no. And that starts his long line of bad decision making, because shortly afterwards, of course, I think after their very first gig, the people from U2 decide, I want to be called Bono, I want to be called The Edge, we're going to call ourselves U2. Several months later, they've been picked up, they have a record album. While these people are struggling, they end up getting all of the money that they have in the world, including some money from a mobster, which again, the older brother does it and doesn't tell anyone else. And they go to London and they try and get famous. All the while, Bono from U2 is being super nice to the older brother and offering to give them a slot on their record label to let them play with them at Hyde Park, which is a gigantic chance. And of course, he's just saying, no, we'll do it on our own. No, we'll do it on our own. And it's a fantastic film about these two people that were so close to U2, and it's almost like a cosmic joke, as they say at one point in the film, of the fact that U2 have just soared and taken off, and these guys, who are pretty much U2, just nothing. They are just left in the dust. And the very beginning of it, you see the older brother, the one that's made all the bad decisions, you see him saying that he has decided to kill Bono because it's the only way now to get famous quickly. And then it cuts back to them at school. You see them in the band, and then go through their life. So it's another one of those films of you see sort of the end at the beginning, and then you see the lead up to it. But I will say that is not the end. It's about three.
People aren't going to need to see the film if you.
No, it is. It's not the memento. It is. You see up to about 3/4, and then there's some more on the end, and they don't say exactly how much of it is real truth and how much of it is embellished for the film making, but it is one of the best films I've seen out of the musician genre, I should say. You get to hear some of the songs that band actually did perform, and they're not bad. That's the big tragedy of it. That band was good. They were just always compared to U2. And it's got a couple of people in it. One of them, I believe his name is Robert Sheehan. I'm probably saying that wrong. And he is actually quite, not famous, but he's quite well known in Britain for being part of a show called Misfits, which I am shocked there hasn't been an American telling of. It's the, what's the word? Delinquents. I mean, they're people who have done something illegal. They haven't gone to prison, but they had to do community service. There is a word for it in the UK, but I can't remember what it is. And then, all of a sudden, they get superpowers. And it's them misusing their powers and so. And it was a really good show. And then, it kind of went off the rails as most shows do. And he went pretty much from that into Killing Bono, which did a big release, but I don't think it had a big release over here. But it's on Netflix now, so everyone can see it. Well,
so I think that'll, about wrap it up for us.
Yeah,
thankfully.
I know I went a little long there, but
so it's a recommendation, not a review.
Yeah. I didn't review it. I was just saying it's good.
All right, so until next time.
Yeah, I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
And
join us. Join us.
Join us.